Which one of y'all ordered a brand new reacting to true stories scary animations? We back with another one. And boy, you better get that at it. Do you guys like my chain? It's brand new. We got new ones coming out all the time. So do me a favor, click the first link in the description below and get one. They're at dangbling.com. Beg your parents, beg your mama, your dad, your uncle, your nephew, your niece, and get one before it's gone. But you guys already know what to do. This is not a drill. Get to the kitchen and get your snacks. Go, go, go. Get all the chips and the popcorn and peanuts and candy, chocolate, maybe a soda. A lemonade sound kind of good. Get it all. And yeah, gotta give a shout out to MJV Animations. They're the ones that made these amazing animations we're about to watch. Subscribe to them, check them out. And yeah, comment down below what grade you're in. Let me know. Let go. Guys, a little bit nervous, but hopefully you got your snacks and hopefully you got your blanket. And let's go ahead and check these out. Let's go.
For background, I'm a 24-year-old woman living in Australia and working at an establishment that caters to an adult audience.
Ew.
One night, as my shift is coming to a close, one of the patrons asks to buy me a drink, which I accept because of employer policy. I talk him up to a couple of expensive drinks for the two of us, have a quick conversation, and make my excuses about my shift being over, but he should come back to see me soon. I feel his gaze undressing me in his mind as he licks a splash of his drink from his upper lip. He stands up and, with this creepy grin, asks to walk me to my car. Now, I'm no idiot. I know never to put myself in that position and politely decline and tell him I might see him next time. I walk out past our biggest bouncer and the guy doesn't follow me.
That's your biggest bouncer?
Nothing extraordinary, just standard par for the course of my profession. But sadly, this isn't where our story ends. Oh no, for this creep, it's only just beginning. I'm off for a week after that night, but when I come back into work, I'm told the patron has been coming in every night for the last week asking for me. Says he wants to buy me another drink. Naively, I think, oh great, a bigger pay this week, and get set for my shift. The night rolls on, and who should roll in but our man of the hour, and he asks for me, right? So I saunter over and he buys me a drink. The whole time I'm sitting there with him, he just has this creepy grin on his face. Not like a sexual undressing creep grin. That's just normal. No, this was the kind of grin where he knows something you don't and is very pleased with himself about that fact.
Is he a werewolf?
So we were talking, and I'm getting him to order himself drinks and trying to upsell him where I can. About half an hour goes by, and I make my excuses to leave so I can try to spread the tips around. But this guy isn't having it. He won't let me leave, and the more I insist, the angrier he gets. He's practically hissy at me by the time I give a look to one of the bouncers, who promptly comes over and diffuses the situation, giving me an opportunity to walk away. Phew, crisis averted. Wrong, because the bouncer doesn't throw him out. It just gives me a buffer, so this guy starts following me around the place, even attempting to walk into an employee-only area, which is where another bouncer finally notices and kicks him out. I finish my shift and walk over to my car.
By yourself?
I shit you not, sitting on the bonnet of my car. How he knew it was my car, I will never know. He wants me to give him a ride and tells me how sexy I look.
Ugh.
He's spewing greasy slimeball creep lines at this point, and I'm not interested. I try to give him a hint nicely and decline to give him a ride, but again, he just turns mean and grabs me by my arm, insisting I give him a ride. I tell him to screw off and jam my key into his shoulder as hard as I can.
Ugh. Ow.
He lets go and I push him with all my might so he falls down. I jump in my car, lock the door, and shove the key in the ignition. He's back up and banging on the window angrily to let him in, and I mean hard. So hard that I think his hands or my window might break. I gun the accelerator and I'm out of there.
Run him
I
over.
get 5 minutes down the road and I'm sure I'm not being followed. I pull over to the side of the road and call back to work. I tell them what's happened and alert that the other girls need to be careful leaving tonight. As I hang up the phone, I break into tears. Now, this isn't my first rodeo. I've been grabbed before, and the sad truth is, it'll probably happen again. But you never get used to it, you know? I eventually compose myself, pull back onto the road, and head home. I cry myself to sleep. The next morning, word has gotten around, and the owner calls me to make sure I'm okay. I assure him I am, but he insists I take some time off in case this creep comes back. He wants to put some distance between us. Makes sense. A week goes by, then 2. He's coming in every night asking about me and being told I quit and don't work there anymore. I lie to get him to stop coming in, but he just keeps coming in and asking, clearly not buying it. Then suddenly, 2.5 weeks in, he stops. Great. I'm really needing money at this point, so I'm happy to be able to go back to work the following week. Time goes on, and everything seems to go back to normal. Same old chancers, but the good kind that lead to higher paychecks. If the abusive guy doesn't come back in, I'm happy. I started being forgetful, though. I think I leave a door closed when I leave the house, but it's open when I get back. Lights on or off, food left out. Things end up in different places than I remember putting them sometimes, moments before. I'm losing it, but it's probably just the stress of everything that's gone down.
Nope.
One of my close friends who works with me reassures me that it's normal after being grabbed like that, and it will pass. This keeps up for a month, until one day I head out to work, get 15 minutes down the road, and realize I forgot some clothes that I'll need that night at work. I head back home, only to find the lights in my room on and the TV visible as on from the outside. I'm really losing it. Good thing I came back, I guess.
Ooh.
I head inside, grab my stuff, and make sure to turn the TV off and the light out, and head to the door. Suddenly, I freeze. There, standing blocking the door, is the creep that grabbed me. I'm stunned, jaw dropped on the floor. And after what seems like a lifetime of standing in silence, staring at each other, him smiling that f***ing smile, I scream. What? I'm screaming for him to get out and ask him what he's doing here. How he knows where I live, all in one jumbled mouthful of confusion. He just stands there with that smile on his face, loudly freaking out, but stupidly not moving. I start gasping for air in a mixture of panic attack and bewilderment. Then he decides to speak in my wake. The words ooze out of him and leave me chilled. Welcome home, honey. You're back early.
Oh.
A switch goes off in my head. I throw everything I have on me at him and sprint to the back door. I'm out. I leg it faster than I ever have in my life.
That's how you
Screaming
run?
bloody murder as I go. No one helps. Stupid, apathetic society. I hide in some bushes around the corner, tears running down my face, gasping for air. I check my pocket and my keys are still there, but no phone. Though I threw that at the stalker creep along with everything else. I sneak back to my house, jump in my car, and nope the F out. I head to work, tell them what's happened, and call the cops. The cops head to my house and send others to my work. The stalker guy is gone when they turn up. They search the house, and it turns out he's been living in my crawl space.
What?
I'm paranoid that's what all those doors and lights and misplaced things were about. I pack up whatever I can fit in my car while cops are still there. That they'll let me take, and I drive. I haven't been back since. I moved states, knew everything.
No! See, that's why you don't work at an adult establishment. That's crazy, man. After all that, girl, you didn't have pepper spray or a taser. You should have at least had a screwdriver that you could have thrown at him. Maybe next time. Okay, guys, don't go anywhere. Stick with me. I don't want to watch these by myself. So let's watch these together, okay? And let's check out another one. Let's go!
I was hiking to a fairly well-known overlook just outside of Glacier National Park in Montana.
By yourself?
It definitely wasn't as great as any of the views within Glacier National Park, but it was just a normal trail with no rules or anything. Also, it was just before winter, which around here is off-season for most hiking and camping, which meant nobody would be out. I didn't mind the cold, so it was nice to have the trail and the overlook to myself. I finished hiking up there at just about 5:30, so it took nearly 6 hours.
Jeez.
Pretty much, there was this large grassy opening on top of the mountain with a couple stone circles for making campfires and setting up camp around. And a little further up was a stone cliff that provided a view of the whole valley of mountains and forest. You could actually probably see Glacier National Park from there on a good clear day. Anyway, as expected, nobody else was at the campsite or at the overlook. I set up all my stuff by the stone circle closest to the overlook and made myself a quick dinner, then went to sit on the edge of the cliff to watch the sunset. I will say there was a bit of a drop below the overlook, which was kind of daunting at first, but the sun setting over the mountains made me completely forget about it. I sat there and watched it for a whole 30 minutes, until it passed the horizon and got dark outside. Feeling good, I got up and turned to walk back to my campsite, but almost jumped back when I saw a man standing right behind me in the bushes near the edge of the forest. He was looking right at me, but what made it really creepy was as soon as I saw him, he just turned around and left right away. I couldn't see much of him since it was pretty dark out, and he was in the bushes, but the man had no backpack on, so I thought he must have gotten to the campsite just after me and set up his stuff already. From where I was on the overlook, I could really only see my setup and none of the other parts of the campsite. But when I got closer, I still didn't see anything else. And the way the guy went into the forest was not in the direction of the campsite either. I thought it was really weird, but went on with my night. I put some dry sticks into the stone circle and lit up a campfire, then set up my mini camping chair and sat by the fire.
That's your setup? It's kind of weak.
I honestly had no plan for this trip. I just wanted to come out here and relax all day and night and enjoy the forest. So that's what I tried to do. Several hours went by. I think it was getting to be around 11 p.m. when I heard footsteps somewhere in front of me. Of course, I couldn't see anything, but it sounded eerily like human footsteps, one after the other, not too far away in the woods. Pretty soon after hearing them, I called out, asking if someone was out there. The footsteps stopped for a moment, like they hesitated, and then began walking again. But whatever it was out there, they didn't respond. Even though it sounded exactly like human footsteps, without being able to see them, and without them responding, I had to believe that it was just an animal, like maybe a deer or something. Because if it was a person, surely they'd respond, but also it made no sense for anyone to be walking around right now. Eventually, the steps faded out though. Another hour went by as I sat by the campfire. I didn't think the footsteps had me too nervous or scared, but they must have, because I was still very awake, like definitely not able to sleep, even though it was past midnight already.
Bro, just go home.
After a while, I knew I wasn't going to bed anytime soon, and I was getting bored, so I walked out to the overlook to see if maybe the stars were out. I left the fire going and got up, walking over to the cliff. The skies weren't too clear. However, the moon was shining down enough to cast a glowing light over the mountains and forest. The breeze was calming and quiet, moving across the valley. I stood there for maybe a minute, before suddenly multiple sticks snapped behind me and a bush aggressively rustled. I spun around, seeing that same man from earlier,
You're
but
cooked.
he didn't turn away this time. He moved through the bush and started quickly walking up to the overlook. I began asking what he was doing out here, but the guy just talked over me, holding this disturbing fake smile as he kept moving.
Ronald McDonald looking face.
Nonsense and keeping from answering any of my questions, or even acknowledging anything that I said. The way he was coming at me was terrifying, and I tried to move to the side, but he was quick to get back in front of me. And suddenly, in the heat of the moment, I realized what was about to happen.
He's gonna push you off.
He put his hands out and lunged at me, trying to push me over the ledge. Thank God I was prepared for it, and had a stable footing, and I was a bit bigger than the guy, so I shoved him back and moved away from the cliff. As he stumbled, I tried to run back to the campsite, but he caught up pretty quick.
That's how you run?
This time, he didn't try to hide his intent. His face was horrifyingly angry and full of rage. I can't even imagine how lucky I was that this guy didn't have any form of weapon on him, because he definitely wouldn't have hesitated to use it. We wrangled around for maybe 30 seconds, but I kept getting the better of him. The guy was pretty skinny, like he hadn't eaten in a while, but he was just dead set on taking me down. After a few attempts though, he was finally beaten enough to run away. I didn't even try chasing or keeping him pinned. Way out here, it just wasn't worth the risk. I got everything together, put on my headlamp, and left the campsite. I made it about 2 hours back down the trail before my headlamp's batteries ran out, so I set up a mini camp in the woods and waited for sunrise, then finished the hike back. I put a report in and talked to a lot of people about my encounter, but everyone has different thoughts as to what the man was really doing out there. All I know is I could have lost my life that night had I been any less careful.
No! See, that's why you don't go on hikes, especially by yourself. Like, why? White people, I tell you. But don't go anywhere, okay? We're just gonna watch one more. Let's go.
Back when I was in college, I worked the overnight shift as a waiter at one of those gas stations with a restaurant attached to it.
Why?
Around my second month there, this guy started coming in regularly, always between 1:30 and 2 a.m. He had greasy blonde hair with a scruffy beard and always wore the same thing, an old army jacket, jeans, and scuffed up boots. Every time he came in, he'd order black coffee, sit in the same booth near the window, and stare outside. After a week, he started trying to chat with me. His voice was hoarse, like he'd been screaming or smoking too much. He asked me my name, and I hesitated before saying my name was Jackson. He nodded and repeated it a few times, like he was trying to memorize it. Then he started to talk to me, or mostly to himself, about all the cities he'd been to that were called Jackson. He chuckled to himself about a memory his voice had trailed off into and took a sip of coffee, so I left him alone. Over the next couple of weeks, he kept showing up. He was always alone, always ordered the same coffee, and always sat in the same spot.
Pervert.
I slowly became curious about this guy, and one night, I was finally bored enough to ask him his name. He looked at me, blinking like I'd woken him up from a daydream. Then after stammering a bit, he said, "Ben." Something told me he was lying, but I didn't press him. I tried to make small talk, asking if he worked nearby or if he was just passing through. He laughed, a weird, humorless shout, looking away as he said he didn't work anymore, not since he married that lot lizard. The tone of his voice let me know the conversation was over. I had learned more than I wanted to. I was more than well enough aware of trucker slang to know that a lot lizard was a truck stop hooker, so I started to think this man was just trying to get away from his wife. After that night, we didn't talk anymore. He kept coming in, kept ordering the same thing, kept sitting in the same spot, until suddenly, he didn't. 2 weeks went by without a sign of him. Then, one night, the door chime rang, and all the air in the room stopped dead. I looked over and saw Ben standing on the doormat,
Jeez.
but everything about him was wrong. His jacket was gone, his jeans were torn, all his hair was matted to his face, and for some god-awful reason, he was absolutely filthy.
It was the lot
He
lizard.
stood there for several seconds, while everyone in the room stared at him, until my boss finally called out and asked what the hell he was doing. All Ben said in response was, "Don't look at me." Immediately after, Ben began shuffling across the tile, never breaking away from his 1,000-yard stare. He stumbled like he had been injured, but he had no expression of pain, only an emptiness that far exceeded his typical state. Nobody made any motion to approach him, as he made his way to the restrooms and locked himself in the men's room. However, a while passed, and Ben never came out. Eventually, my boss told me to go check on him.
No.
I knocked on the door a few times to no response. I kept calling his name, but I heard nothing from inside. My boss yelled at me to get him out of there and threw me the bathroom keys. I didn't want to invade Ben's privacy, but it was basically a direct order from my boss, so I put the keys in and turned them, then slowly opened the door. To my surprise, the bathroom was completely dark. Ben had shut himself in and turned off the lights. I called his name quietly, asking if he was okay. All I heard was breathing. Loud, labored breathing like sheer panic. I pushed the door open the rest of the way and let the light from the rest of the store spill in. I saw Ben standing with his face stuffed into the corner. His arms were crossed and tightly squeezing his chest as it rocked up and down from his breathing. Again, I called his name as loud as I could manage. Ben finally, slowly, turned his head around to look at me. His eyes were shockingly wide, almost shining back at me like a nocturnal animal. I couldn't look away. As I stared, Ben took in a full breath, then shattered my ears with the loudest scream I've ever heard. "Don't look at me." A second later, he charged out of the bathroom and ran straight into me. He pinned me to the ground and clawed at my face. He kept screaming, "Don't look at me, don't look at me." But I had my eyes shut tight and my hands covering my face to keep him from gouging my eyes out. Soon after, people came and ripped Ben off of me.
Jeez.
They weren't able to hold him. When I opened my eyes, I saw him running out the door with another chime of the bell. The police were called, but by then, he was long gone. And unfortunately, the security footage was too pixelated to identify him. Thankfully, Ben, if that's even his real name, never came back. It took me a few days to feel comfortable going back to work there, but I eventually just wanted to move on and forget about it. However, a few weeks after the incident with Ben, a customer as I was serving mentioned something that made me think of him. The body of a woman in her early 30s was found in a ditch a few miles down the road. She was suspected to be a prostitute, and she had been beaten to death. Her remains had been decomposing for weeks. Instantly, everything clicked. With the timing with Ben coming in all dirty and screwed up, and the lot lizard he said he married, I was sure that it was his wife. I went to the police with this information, and they thanked me for my input. Sadly, as far as I know, they never managed to find Ben. I quit that job several months later to focus on school, and that's the last I heard of it. So, he's probably still out there.
And that's why you don't work at gas stations. If some rough looking people walk in or you see somebody who's just looking rough, leave them alone. If they lock themselves in the bathroom, just let them. I'd be like, you know what? The bathroom's yours. You can have it. I'll find another one. It's ridiculous, man. I'll pee my pants before I use that bathroom. But if you enjoyed this video, then go ahead and smack that like button. And yeah, I'ma see ya in the next one. Peace.